How many of you are stuck with a really dodgy webcam? You want to present in high quality, running a business, but you can't get those HDMI adapters from the shops because of COVID-19 and them being sold out everywhere. You don't have the money to fork out for the expensive ones that are still on the shelves, but you want to be able to use your camera that you have, the one that you take amazing photos with, the one that you take great video with. You want to use that. The Nikon Z now works as a webcam on both Mac and PC. Now on the PC you can use ECAM. It's software that you buy and it enables you to use your cameras as webcams. So it works with any camera. I'm going to show you that in a separate video, but this video is all about using it on the Mac. Now up until now it's really been impossible without the HDMI adapter. But I've been working with Julie from Nikon, and we've been working with ECAM Live as well to start to bring in this ability for the Nikon Z to work as a webcam, and that is exactly what I'm using right now. I am plugged in to the Nikon Z6 using a regular USB-C cord that comes with the camera, and it is operating as a webcam. I am going to show you how to do this. Now, normally, you might have a web camera like this. So this is my really dodgy camera that I hate to use, but in the past I've had to use it because I've needed a second camera. FaceTime camera on the Macs, it's pretty good, but it doesn't blur out the background. I have no control really over the depth of field. And I'm a photographer. I do video. I want to be able to use my lenses and make it look awesome. So that is why I'm using a 1.8 35mm lens. It's the Z series lens on the Nikon Z6. Now I'm going to show you the steps right now on how you can set your Z6 up to work as a webcam in any software, and also how ECAM Live are setting it up so that you'll be able to very soon just plug it in and off you go in ECAM Live. So huge thanks to the ECAM Live guys for the work that you're doing on this. It's only just going to keep getting better and better. So now let's go ahead and see what do you need to do to make your Nikon Z work as a webcam. To prepare your Nikon Z6 for webcasting, change your frame size and rate to 1080p and 25 frames per second. You'll then want to change your camera over to DX mode, which is cropped sensor mode, which means that it's not outputting as much information and it will show up better in the feed. So make sure you switch over to DX mode in movie mode. When your camera is connected, it will be in PC mode, which means you can't use the touchscreen. Make sure you set your focus option to auto area AF in full follow focus so that the camera follows your face when you are talking. You'll want to make sure that you've got a cable that you can plug in to the camera. It's going to be a USB-C cable. Tether tools produce long USB-C cables for tethering, and these are perfect, but you can also use the cable that came with the camera. Next, open up the software Camera Live, and once it's open, you need the camera turned off and plug in that Nikon Z6 so that it shows up on screen. You may need to give it a bit of time before it says ready and activate. Turn the camera on, and Camera Live will then switch it over to PC mode. The Z6 will then show as active on the screen. You can have multiple Zs plugged in at the one time and switch between them in this software. You'll then want to open Cam Twist. In Cam Twist, select Siphon and then go into the settings of the siphon. Select Camera Live as the siphon server And once you've done that, you are ready to run Camera Live and the Z in any software. We'll start with Zoom. So go into your video settings in Zoom and you'll see Cam Twist show up. You can switch between the FaceTime camera or your onboard webcam and Cam Twist. It's important to choose your preferred microphone. I use a Yeti Blue mic, so I choose the Yeti stereo microphone for my speaker and my microphone. I have headphones plugged into the mic. So you need to choose the preferred microphone as the sound won't come through the camera. Skype works much the same way. So when you open up Skype, you just need to go into your audio and video settings and change the video to Cam Twist. You can choose the FaceTime camera or whichever camera you have, but you can choose your Z camera by going into Cam Twist. Again, choose your preferred microphone. I'm going to use the Yeti stereo microphone again, and make sure that it's selected in your settings. ECAM Live is great software to be able to present on Facebook or YouTube or multiple online platforms. The great thing about ECAM Live is you don't actually need to be running the Cam Twist software. And now the work's been done by ECAM Live to also ensure that we don't need to use Camera Live in ECAM Live. I'm going to show you how to use ECAM Live now. So I will quit Cam Twist. Now, at the moment, I'm going to use Camera Live just because they are currently updating the software and it's imminent that they're going to load up the new software soon so that we don't need to use Camera Live. But for now, leave that running and open up ECAM Live. We'll provide all the links to this software. And ECAM Live will open up and it will say, if you've got the older version, it will say Camera Live running. Do you want to quit Camera Live? At the moment, I'm going to press continue because it hasn't been updated, but it will be very soon. You won't need to run that. I'm now directly in ECAM Live. I don't need Cam Twist because ECAM Live works directly with this Nikon. So great job, guys. We're really, really thankful. ECAM Live is really powerful. It is software that I use to present online on Facebook pages, on YouTube. It enables you to bring in Skype guests, which I'm going to do shortly. You can put overlays up, you can control all of the sound, and you can see all the comments and reactions from people and load them up. Now, apart from going live, you can actually use ECAM Live to record, and I do that quite often. So I'm going to go into record only mode, and I'm going to record this. So now that I've switched over to recording, I can also change the mic delay. Now, one of the things is that when you're using your camera, your Nikon Z with a different mic, because you can't use the onboard mic at the moment, so a different mic, like I'm using the Yeti, there will be a slight delay. It won't be much, it might be a few frames. So ECAM Live have put into their product the ability to change the offset so that there's some mic delay because the vision and the mic you want to match up. So I've got that set to 5 frames. You can play around with that until it matches. And the other awesome thing about ECAM Live, so without ECAM Live, you need Cam Twist to run in Skype or in Zoom. But you can use ECAM Live to output as a virtual camera. Now I've got that running, which means that if I now open one of my software programs, so now I've opened Skype, it means I can bring my guests into Skype, but it also means that in Skype, I can run a virtual camera. So I'm going to go into my Skype settings, and I'm not running Cam Twist at the moment, but I am running the ECAM Live virtual camera. And you can then produce everything that you send out via Skype or Zoom. You can produce it in such a way that you can invite other guests through Skype, you can put in other videos that you've created, you can do so much in this software. So thank you ECAM Live, like the work that you guys have done to really just give us the option of being able to plug our Z cameras in. We've been working with these guys for weeks because here's the thing, you can't get the HDMI adapters. They're sold out everywhere. So even though you can buy these things and they might cost $500, you might get something for $200, they're actually not available. So there's been no way for us to turn our Nikon Zs into a webcam until now, and it's a huge thanks to the guys at ECAM Live who have been developing their software to support it even further, and we're so grateful. All right, now I am going to bring in Julie now to help me in answering all your questions about this. We'd love to have you ask anything you want and we'll try and answer it as best we can. We're really excited about this ability for these Zs to go well beyond just being a still camera, especially now we're in lockdown and we can't do a lot, but we can communicate. We can communicate online, and we can do that in high quality with nice blurry background. As you can see behind on my 1.8 35mm lens, you can produce high quality content, and you can do it just with your Nikon Z6. So, Julie, let's bring you in. Julie, it's so good to have you in this video to help share with everyone about how we can now use our Z camera as a webcam. It's very exciting. I know we've been working really hard behind the scenes on this. So I'd love you to share from your perspective what we've been doing and why it's so important.
Oh, Karen, this is absolutely fantastic, and I really thank you for all the work that you've spent with me and with all of the third-party people trying to get our Zs to work. This is really important because Nikon do make beautiful, great quality cameras, and a lot of our photographers out there are wanting more than ever to be able to share content, to educate people, to inspire people. And not even just the creatives, but the business world as well. So this is giving people a really great opportunity to provide and share very high quality content.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're actually both on our Z6s at the moment. We're running this through Zoom, which is really cool because Zoom is something that many people are using right now, and many of them just using their normal webcams, but we are using our Z6s.
We are indeed, and Zoom has been really great because I think the quality is a little bit better on this than some of the other applications that we've tried, and I'm sure each of them will get better in time, but Zoom's been really stable and it's something that a lot of people are using, and it's easy, so you're getting good quality as well as an easy to use platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we want to answer some questions that people might have with this setup and sort of help you guys get started with setting up your Z. Julie, what cameras at the moment do we know it works on?
Okay, so Karen, we've definitely tested this functionality with the Z6 and the Z7 cameras, and we know that they both work really well. The Z6 obviously gives you a better resolution, a better image quality, just because it doesn't have quite as large a sensor to have to downsample from. We also think that the Z50 will likely work, but we haven't tested that one yet. Just the working from home arrangement has made it a little tricky to get our hands on product, but we're hoping to test that very soon. And if there is anyone at home that has a Z50 and would like to try this out, please do let us know. And we're also quite certain that it will work on most of the other cameras as well, OSLRs, but for the autofocus capability and so on, the Z systems are absolutely ideal, and the Z6 in particular. So, Karen, you've been using webcasting for quite a long time. Do you think that these cameras are outputting in high definition?
So at the moment, from what we can establish, and it's actually kind of hard to really pinpoint what resolution it's outputting with at the moment, but we feel like it's outputting at about 720p from our research, which is really fantastic. And I mean, at the moment, YouTube are not letting people broadcast beyond 720p anyway because of the high bandwidth use that's that's going on. So it will broadcast at about that, but there is potential with the work that we're doing with ECAM Live for this to be enhanced to 1080p, which we know the camera is capable of as well. So we're hopeful that might even come in very, very soon.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So we're really not being limited at all by a 720p, because at the moment that's the highest resolution that YouTube and so on is allowing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Also, Julie, you were talking about the Z7 and the difference between the Z7 and the Z6. And we talked about going into DX mode. Can you explain that a little bit more about why we should be changing the camera to DX mode?
Yeah, sure. So the Z6 has a 24 megapixel sensor and the Z7 is a 45 megapixel sensor. And when we're using video, we're already downsampling. And remember, we're using the video stream here, or the live view stream from the camera to get the signal. So what we're wanting to do is actually put the camera into DX mode so that it's using the center portion of the frame. It's only reading data from the center portion of the sensor. So the camera's not having to do as much work to downsample that file. And by doing that, you get a much better image quality. So Z7 is still very capable of doing a webcam, but the Z6 in DX mode, just because it's using a lot less data to downsample from, is giving you a vastly better image quality. It looks great. We're both using Z6s at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. That's really good information. Just a side note on that, we do know that with the PC, and this is something that I'll be covering in another video, but with the PC, both the Z6 and the Z7 work really, really well through another piece of software, and they're outputting at 1080p. So we're just talking about this being really important, putting it in DX mode and using the Z6 for the Mac in its current form right now, and the way that we've showed you how to set it up. So hopefully in coming days and weeks, more will be possible. Cool.
And Karen, why do you think that it's better to use a mirrorless for a webcam, or a mirrorless rather than a built-in webcam?
Yeah, well, I demonstrated some of the differences with the webcams that I've got, and it's such a major difference using a camera, particularly that has a wide aperture. So I really love to use something that's a 1.8 or similar, because you're going to get that beautiful background blur, and it's real background blur. Some of these software programs, you can click a button and you can have fake background blur, but all that is it's trying to imitate what one of these cameras, these Z6s, can actually accomplish. And so as a photographer and as someone that does videos professionally, I want everything that I put out to look professional, not just the videos I create in camera, but also when I'm broadcasting to people. So I think so many people will find this so beneficial now that we're in lockdown, and because we can't go out and buy those HDMI adapters and maybe can't afford them. So yeah, for sure, it's just a big difference.
I think maybe that's a really good point now as well, that even when you and I were trialing this, it took a little bit of time to set up placement of the camera. Mm-hmm. And, working from home, you don't always have the same environment that you would in your studio or in your office. So you and I played around a lot with different focal lengths of lenses, which you couldn't do with a webcam. We played around with the ISOs. We also played around with colour, and they're all things that you can't control on your webcam.
Yeah.
So having that capability of just an interchangeable lens system, being able to change that field of view was particularly helpful.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I mean, you can go, once you've got it all set up, you can go further with that. I've now set up my space in my studio specifically for webcasting, because that's primarily what I'm doing right now during COVID-19. Yeah. And so being able to set that up, getting the tripod and the camera in place, once you're all set, all you need to do is switch it on and off you go.
I think the tripod is a worthy investment, and keeping it in the one place.
You're using a tripod at the moment, Julie?
I am.
I've got one of those little gorilla pods, so you can kind of move it around and put it on your desk. They're quite handy.
Look, that's an interesting thing too, because you do need to place the camera, just over the height of your computer monitor to get So that you're not looking down at the screen so much and having to lift your laptop up too much.
Yeah, exactly. Well, for me, I've got it positioned right next to the camera because I've got some very large monitors going on. So if I put them on the top, it's too high. But that's what you really want to do when you set this up, is get it as close as possible. So when you're talking, and in fact, I always move the screen of who I'm looking at really close to the camera, so onto the side of the monitor, so I can look like I'm looking at that person as much as possible. This is probably a more detailed one, but can you tell us what settings should we put our camera on before we switch over to PC mode? Because we know that when we do this process, it does switch the camera into PC mode, which means we can't actually change the settings after we're connected. So what settings should we be putting on?
Yeah, sure. That's a really good question. So when you plug the USB-C cable into your Z camera, it turns it to PC mode, as Karen said. And that means that the screen goes black. We don't have the capability to do a signal on the back of the screen and a signal out. So you need to make sure that your settings are input into the camera before you change it over. And those things that we need to look for, again, photographers are used to going to the photo shoot menu, but we need to make most of these adjustments will be in the movie shooting menu with a little movie camera. So the first thing to do is you need to set your resolution to 1080p at 25 frames a second, and that's for Australia, PAL. You might want to change it to 30 if you're in the USA or somewhere like that. You also want to make sure that your image area is set to DX mode, which is the crop mode, and this also needs to be done in the video menu settings, so the movie shooting menu. That allows the camera to drag the information from the smaller section in the centre of the sensor and give you a better image quality, so DX mode. You want to make sure that your white balance is correct and matches the lighting in your room. And to make sure that your background is not so distracting, I recommend you use like a very shallow depth of field. So a 1.8 lens or a 2.8 lens. I'm using the Nikon 2470 2.8 Z lens, and my aperture is set to 2.8. Karen, I think you're using a 35mm Z 1.8.
That's right. Yeah, I'm set to 1.8 at the moment. Correct.
Yeah, so we're both getting a really shallow depth of field, which means that it's not quite so distracting when you're doing an interview or you've got this kind of situation. Yeah.
Yep.
So use a really a really wide open aperture, 1.8, 2.8 if you can. Make sure that your autofocus is set to follow focus in your video settings. So that would be AFF, autofocus, follow focus, AFF. And for your shutter speed, use an equation of 50. So Karen recommends we use 1/100th of a second shutter speed. You can use the 50th of a second, but 1/100th of a second was ideal here because I was having a little bit too much light come in. So that really helped out here. But any kind of equation of 50, 100, 200th of a second should be fine. Now, I have locked my ISO, down to 100 ISO. So I locked it straight down to the lowest number that I could use for video. But if you're in an environment where your light's changing a lot, perhaps just switch on auto ISO. A couple of other things to think about in your menu is you may wish to adjust the tracking sensitivity, which is in the custom settings, so the pencil menu in your camera, and then go down to G movie settings and just adjust your tracking sensitivity and the autofocus speed of your video to make sure that it holds focus on your subject and doesn't track around as you move in and out when you're talking. The other thing that I suggest that you do, especially if you are usually a photographer primarily, is sometimes you may like to use an auto setting or perhaps even a vivid portrait setting, a vivid picture setting. And for video, you really want to make sure that you're using a portrait setting or perhaps even a flat profile so that you don't get really, really vibrant skin tones. So I think they're most of the settings, Karen.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we can lock those down into a user setting once we've got it all set up, can't we? So that we don't have to remember to change that every single time.
Absolutely. Such a great suggestion. So there is quite a bit to set up for webcasting, and it's a great idea once you've got those settings programmed into your camera to save them, as you said, Karen, as a user setting. And to do that, go to the setup menu, which is the spanner in your Z, and just select save user setting, and you can choose user 1 or user 2. And that way, once it's saved on the top dial, your command dial, you just choose user 1 when you want to do your webcasting, and then when you go back to shooting normally, you can just put it to your normal setting and it'll remember it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's so good to have that option. So thank you. Yeah, thanks for all of that information.
No worries. Why can't we use the onboard mic in the camera at the moment?
So at the moment, the way that this is connecting up, it's via USB and it's not carrying the audio signal. So we won't be getting any audio from the camera. Even if you plug in an external microphone to the camera, you won't get audio. So you do need to use that separate microphone. I use the Yeti Blue microphone, which is a podcasting mic, but really any mic. And then in the particular software that you're using, you need to make sure that you're choosing the mic that you're using and you're choosing the video that you're using in that software. So Julie, because we're running video, are there any limitations to how long we can actually broadcast for, or whether the camera is going to overheat with us using it for so long?
Well, Karen, I have been using the Z6 now with you on and off for days, and literally testing these with every kind of software you can imagine. I've had this camera on for 2.5, 3 hours and it's still not hot at all. And the battery hasn't run out. So we're getting several hours out of one battery charge. And no, it's definitely, there's no overheating at all.
I think
not even hot.
Yeah, and I believe that's the one reason that it's not overheating and it's not limited to like that 30 minutes that it normally would be is because we're not actually recording to a card. In fact, you can do this without a card in the camera. All we're doing is sending through the live view footage. So, yeah, it makes a huge difference.
That's correct. In fact, the camera that you're seeing me on now doesn't have a memory card in it. So it's just sending the feed from the live view through the USB-C cord. And because of that, because it's not recording, it's not generating a lot of heat.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also the screen's off on the camera too, so that's probably helping the battery life as well.
So Karen, we've done a lot of testing on Mac, and we know that the Mac will work in 2 different options at the moment, one with Camera Live and ECAM, and another option with Camera Live and Camera Twist. What options do we have for PC users?
Okay, so PC users, we do have an option, and it's quite a good option actually. There's software called SparkoCam, and you can download a trial, and it does work really well, and it's broadcasting out 1080p. I have been playing with that, and I'm going to do another video on it because I've actually discovered something amazing. There is a way to also do wireless webcasting with a Tether Tools device. So I'll be putting out another video next week about that to share it.
That sounds so exciting. So we'll be able to walk around the room without being limited by a cable with our Z camera.
Yes, webcasting wherever you are.
That is
pretty awesome.
That a built-in webcam cannot do.
That's right. And in the 1080p beautiful definition, it's amazing. Very exciting.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you so much, Julie, for sharing all of your wisdom and knowledge and for your time. So for those of you that don't know Julie, I know many of you know Julie, but those of you that don't know Julie, Julie is from Nikon Australia. Your official title, Julie, for everyone so they know?
Senior Pre-Markets Manager.
And what do you specialise in? What do you normally do when we're not in this whole COVID-19 situation?
I am the Senior Professional Markets Manager at Nikon Australia, and my responsibilities are within the government, defence, media, professional markets. So we look after professional photographers or customers that have a professional need. A lot of that is things like getting our Z cameras to work as web cameras. So we do a lot of research and development and testing and support for photographers out there. But it's very much a business development and support role.
Yeah, and you're so fantastic at it. We just appreciate you so much, and I know everyone that knows you just loves you so much. So I really
the partnership. We couldn't do it without you either.
High five, virtual high five. All right, so thank you, everyone. If you do have any more questions, please don't hesitate to write in and write a comment, and we'll see if we can answer them. And yeah, happy webcasting on your Z cameras.
Cheers, everyone.